What's going on, everyone? In this video we will be discussing the early game in Arena and essentially how to survive it so you can start earning placement points. If you haven't already seen it, I did recently make an overall tips and trick video for Arena that I will link in the description below and most likely put on one of the cards above. Real quick before we start this video, I want to say thank you to everyone who's been hitting that like button and subbing. This channel is beginning to move faster than ever before and you all are to thank for that. So thank you. Alright, let's talk about your drop location. Your drop location is going to set the tone for the rest of the game. On one hand, you want to drop at a place where you can farm up mats and get good loot. On the other hand, you want a place that is secluded enough that you don't get eliminated and sent back to the lobby right away. Named locations are great if you know the route you're going to take and loot efficiently so that you are ready for any fight you may have to take on. Unnamed locations are great as far as avoiding conflict and setting yourself up to get out of the early game. But you do take the chance on your loot not being as good as if you dropped into a named location. So how can you make the most out of your drop? Let's first start with named locations if you decide to go that route. Right now the best named locations to get easy loot and not be bothered too much are going to be on the edges of the map. I'm talking Steamy Stacks, Holly Hedges, Misty Meadows, and Rickety Rig. Locations such as Salty and Frenzy Farm are too close to the Authority, which is a hotspot due to the vault and mythic items. They are also very close to the middle of the map, which relieves the chance of enemies coming from all directions to you. Same goes for Lazy Lake and Retail Row. Caddy Corner is a hotspot due to the mythic items and the vault. On top of that, Lazy and Retail are two locations that can be rotated into very easily from Caddy Corner, which is why Misty gets a slight pass in this one. Misty is further south, and unless the circle pulls into that direction, it won't be rotated through very much from someone who wins Caddy Corner. The Fortilla is a place that may get people going there for the same reason as Authority and Caddy Corner, but the loot there is much less valuable, which makes Rickety Rig and Holly Hedges great name locations to land. Once you choose a name location to drop into, drop on the same building every time. Generally, the building you want to drop on is toward the edge of town and has a couple chests and several spots for ground loot. The reason being is that you want all your enemies to be in front of you. If you land on the middle building, you can easily get pushed from multiple sides, putting yourself in an unfavorable position. In every town, there are a couple buildings that have either more loot or less loot compared to all the others. Know which ones these are so you can decide to land on them or not. Once you figure out which building you're planning on landing on, figure out a rotation method within the town so that you can farm mats and loot up the quickest. If no one drops there, which buildings are you going to prioritize and which ones are you going to leave if the storm starts to come in? Sometimes going through the roof is the best, where there is a chest and ground loot up there. Sometimes going through the front door is the best because there is a lot of ground loot and furniture to farm. Now, if a few people drop there, which buildings can you take advantage of to win the fight if you have to? This can be based on the height advantage that the building gives you, the spot where you can possibly hide and surprise your opponent, or a building where you know there is a lot of loot you can possibly get to win. These scenarios are crucial to think about if you're going to consistently do well in Arena. Now, when dropping in an unnamed location, the same rules apply for the most part. You want to pick a place that you have a decent amount of loot so you can defend yourself, and you want it to be next to trees and rocks so you can pick up some quick materials. The best places as of right now that I've seen are the houses by the lighthouse in the northwest corner, the abandoned headquarters north of Frenzy Farm next to the small racetrack, the house just southeast of the bridge south of the Authority, and the palm area north of Retail Row and west of where the grotto used to be. All of these places give you decent loot and are in areas where you can farm up mats. All of them except for the one south of Authority are also towards the edge of the map so that you generally will have all your enemies in front of you while rotating. The unnamed spot south of Authority just makes this list because it has several small locations next to it that you can loot from. You won't have to go far for the next circle, and Misty Meadows and Rickety Rig are south of it, meaning you won't have many people rotating into you, and for the most part can focus on them pushing you. Once you choose an unnamed location, try to perfect the landing there. Most of the time these places are chosen because they are remote and not many people will contest you at them, but occasionally there will be one or two people contesting the small area you are landing at. In this case, you want to make sure that you are the first one to the ground in order to grab the loot. This comes with practice and constantly playing the game in order to see different flight paths that you will drop from. Remember that you want to aim for lower areas on the map, so when you pull your glider, you are closer to the ground. Now that you have mastered your drop, it's now time to master how you're going to rotate. Just like name locations, you want to focus on where you're going to rotate around the area you dropped at first. For some places, it may be hitting a few huts, others you're going to look for small camps along the rivers, and then there are some where you're going to move back into name locations. All of these are perfectly fine, just choose the most logical one for your landing spot. You want to maximize the speed at which you can loot and farm in order to get a good spot in the next zone. It is best to have 2 or 3 routes due to you most likely having to travel a bit to gain as much loot as someone who would normally drop in a name location. Also, if you run into an enemy and the fight isn't in your favor, you need to know another route to take in order to get good loot. Alright, let's talk about the loot that you should prioritize. Assuming you are getting a good amount of loot and aren't restricted on what you can grab, what should you carry? First and foremost, you always want to carry some type of health item, whether that be shields, bandages, or even fish. What a lot of people like to do is have 2 spots for heals, 2 spots for weapons, and 1 spot for some miscellaneous things such as a flare gun, bounce pads, fishing rod, or even peppers that help you run faster. This is good especially if you want to carry an AR shotgun combo. Other effective inventories will have to do with 3 weapons and 2 heals or 2 weapons and 3 heals. I don't recommend having only 1 type of heal on you if you can help it. Even though you regain health with a kill, there are plenty of times where you get put down to a lower health and need something to allow you to either finish the fight or get ready for the next one that's coming. Same goes for weapons. You don't want to get caught with just an AR or just an SMG or just a sniper. You generally want 1 weapon where you can shoot someone from a distance, as well as one where you can handle yourself up close. This is why, although it can work, an SMG shotgun combo isn't ideal. For this combo to work, you have to take all your fights up close and personal. Same goes with an AR sniper combo. You have to take all your fights from far away. This is why the most common combo is an AR shotgun combo. This allows you to virtually take whatever fight you want with confidence. With a regular AR being a spray weapon, you can also utilize the charged shotgun by shooting then cleaning up with the AR. In this current season, I would say the guns that you don't need to prioritize are snipers and rocket launchers. They are nice to have, but they aren't completely necessary to winning a fight. On the other hand, the weapons that you need to prioritize are the ARs, SMGs, and shotguns. For ARs, prioritize the regular AR over the burst. The regular AR is much more versatile and can give you the confidence to take on fights while going down to only 2 weapons in your inventory. For shotguns, prioritize the charged shotgun over the TAC, but only if you feel comfortable at this point in knowing how to use it. The charged shotgun is tricky. It can be a very powerful weapon, one-shotting people and giving you the kill. It also has shoot on release, so if you aren't used to that, you will find yourself missing plenty of shots. The TAC, unfortunately, in this season is just too weak. Don't get me wrong, it will still win you fights, but if someone hits you with a good charge shot compared to a good TAC shot, you're most likely going to feel it more coming from the charged shotgun. For SMGs, I included it on the list not because you should grab it instead of an AR or a shotgun, but because you should use it alongside those two, and if you can't find either one of those two. SMGs are very versatile in this game in my opinion. From far away you can't do much damage at all, but you can still do a little chip damage. From up close, you can't move a whole lot while shooting at someone and will have to connect a few shots, but when you do, you can melt people. Not to mention the fast firing SMG shreds builds. Definitely take it if an AR or a shotgun aren't available. Now, what if you get pushed in the early game? In the early game, you only want to take fights if you are confident you're going to win them. If getting points is your goal, the most points come from placement points. Of course, unless you're getting 9 to 10 kills a game, you want to play for the placement points. But this is why most players should try to make it out of the early game with full health. In the case of getting pushed and there's not a clear and obvious way of ending the fight quickly or getting away, then hopefully you listen to the tips before. Know your surroundings. Which building can you use to outsmart them? Is there a certain section of the map that is awkward to fight in? Can you take them somewhere that is more comfortable for you. Unfortunately, you won't always be able to afford any of these options, thus I highly recommend before playing Arena, playing box fights. Right now they have a community box fighting map that you can queue into with other people. If your weapons are extremely unfavorable, such as having a sniper, do what you can to get out of there. If you have a shotgun and SMG and you know all they got is an AR, first of all, that's a bad push by them, but secondly, take that fight, push them back, get up close and personal. The whole idea about early game fights is that you want to take the ones that you're confident you're going to win and avoid the ones that you're confident you won't win. Lastly, what part of the circle should you rotate to when getting out of the early game? Right off the bat, the best part of a circle to rotate to is the weak side. If you don't know what I mean, the weak side of the circle is the part of the circle that will have the least amount of players rotating into it. It will have the least amount of towns right outside of it, and more specifically, if you get lucky, this part of the circle will be closer to the edges of the island. If you see a side of the circle that has 3 towns right outside of it, don't go there. Unless you're trying to see some action, of course, but avoiding these areas where you can see some fights allows you to get out of the early game and into the mid game where you're closer to earning placement points. Alright, that about does it for the early game. Next time we will talk about what you can do in the mid game to set yourself up for the end game to really pack in those points. Don't forget to like and subscribe with notifications on to show YouTube that this is good content. Hope you all have a great day.